You guys saw what I was in there tonight. Yeah, I thought that, you know, once those bright lights hit and that round went and...
No, I think is the answer for the trilogy. I mean, you're right. I mean, we've seen crazier things happen in boxing. It is the wild, wild west. There's enough money. It makes sense.
I could see him having a rematch again, or asking for a rematch, but ultimately...
There's always the potential of a trilogy. Could be in 6 months, could be in 12 months, could be in 18 months. Conor could fight another fight first, potentially give Chris a bit more of a break.
One more fight. Chris Eubank Jr. is making it clear he wants a trilogy fight with Conor Benn. Despite a tough night in the ring, he is already demanding another match and shows he is determined to get back in there. Chris Eubank Jr. wants the chance to prove himself once more.
Mistaken. You guys saw what I was in there tonight. Yeah, I thought that, you know, once those bright lights hit and that round went and, you know...
Conor Benn points out that Chris Eubank Jr. is asking for a trilogy fight after their rematch, but for now, Benn thinks it should be left alone. Trilogy is not yet confirmed, but when this gets confirmed, fans will be informed soon. So make sure you subscribe to stay updated on this exciting potential fight.
I can see him having a rematch again, or asking for a rematch, but ultimately, I think we should just let it lie now. No, just let it lie. We've done what we had to do. We sold our stadium twice. We done what it said it was going to do on a tin, you know. So let's just call it a day now. Only fight that matters is the last fight anyway. So
Adam Smith talks about the huge money involved if Chris Eubank Jr. gets the trilogy fight with Conor Benn. He explains that both families have had 2 fights each, and maybe it could be a fair way to finish the series. Adam Smith also shares his respect for Chris Eubank Jr. and says he feels for him after a tough night. He praises Conor Benn for performing under pressure and says another loss would have been very hard. Chris Eubank Jr. clearly wants another opportunity to prove himself.
There'll be huge money in the trilogy fight, and maybe we just leave it at there. You know, the father's had 2 and they've had 2 and it's 1 each, and maybe that's a nice way to finish it. But yeah, I feel for Chris tonight. I'm really happy for Conor, because I thought he boxed the fight of his life. Under real pressure, actually, because another loss would have been very...
Nigel Benn says the trilogy with Chris Eubank Jr. is over and there is no need for another fight. He explains that they beat the Eubanks already and it does not bother him at all. He mentions that the younger generation will not continue this legacy and they do not want to pursue a trilogy anymore. Nigel Benn's comments show he is done with the whole situation and wants to move on. Chris Eubank Jr. may want it, but the Benn family feels the story is finished.
It's over with. I don't think, yeah, we beat the Eubanks. It doesn't bother me. I'm a bit more mature than that.
The grandchildren ain't having the sort of trilogy of the legacy.
No, we don't want that no more, mate. It's over with, done.
Gareth Davies explains that a trilogy with Chris Eubank Jr. could happen if he claims the weight cut affected his performance. He warns that we are seeing warning signs about Chris Eubank Jr.'s weight management and even his age. Davies highlights the challenges Chris Eubank Jr. faces physically in another fight. While Chris Eubank Jr. wants the trilogy, Gareth Davies implies that it might be risky for him, and that fans should consider whether he can safely compete again against Conor Benn.
There could be a trilogy if he says he got the weight cut wrong, but my view is we're starting to see the danger signs of his weight cut and certainly the danger signs of his age.
Eddie Hearn says there is no need for a trilogy with Chris Eubank Jr. He explains that the plan is to move Conor Benn back down to his proper weight class. Hearn praises Conor Benn as the new star of British boxing and highlights his achievement of filling Tottenham twice. He notes that Conor Benn needed to be smarter in the fight and that he is very exciting to watch. Chris Eubank Jr. may want the trilogy, but Eddie Hearn is focused on moving forward strategically.
No need for a trilogy, no?
No, we want to move back down. Conor's the new star of British boxing, you know. I mean, look, he's filled Tottenham twice and, you know, he needed to be a bit smarter there. You know how exciting he is, but he just needed every round. I was just saying to him, just concentrate, please. Just.
Derek Chisora comments on the possibility of another fight between Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. He says the last fight was great, but questions if it is necessary to see it again. Chisora firmly states that the fight is done and should remain as it is. He suggests leaving the trilogy idea behind. Chris Eubank Jr. may want another opportunity, but Derek Chisora makes it clear that the focus is on ending the series respectfully and moving on from what has already happened.
You know, it was great, but are we going to see that again? Do you want to see that again? No. It's done 1-1, that's it, leave it like that.
The Wade Concept explains that Chris Eubank Jr. wants a trilogy fight with Conor Benn, but he doubts it will happen. He highlights that after the last fight, Chris Eubank Jr. gave everything he had and has nothing left to give. According to the Wade Concept, another fight does not make sense because the first fight already took so much from Chris Eubank Jr. The comments show that while Chris Eubank Jr. is eager for a trilogy, many experts feel it is not realistic and may not happen.
He wants to come back, maybe do the trilogy. I don't think there's any shot in hell they do a trilogy after that fight. There ain't no way you do a trilogy there. That doesn't make any sense. Because what happened in this fight showed me that the first fight was Chris Eubank Jr. left everything in that first fight. He had nothing left to give.
Liam Goff insists that a trilogy fight with Chris Eubank Jr. should never happen, because the rivalry has already happened twice. He criticizes Chris Eubank Jr. for looking awful in the last fight and says he does not know how he can recover from that performance. Goff points out that Conor Benn should focus on returning to welterweight and explore other opportunities. The commentary emphasizes that Chris Eubank Jr. may want the trilogy, but many in the boxing world feel the series has ended and another fight would not be justified.
Been done now twice, we should never see a trilogy, and honestly, Chris Eubank Jr., I don't know what he does. He looked awful. Absolutely awful in there. As for Conor Benn, listen, if you can get back down to welterweight, get back down there. And
Shane McGuigan believes that Chris Eubank Jr. is the fighter most likely to pursue a trilogy with Conor Benn. He explains that if Chris Eubank Jr. commits to a proper training camp and boxes carefully behind his jab, he has a strong chance of winning. McGuigan even suggests that a late stoppage is possible if Chris Eubank Jr. executes his plan perfectly. The commentary highlights Chris Eubank Jr.'s determination and skill and shows that experts see him as motivated and capable if he decides to go all out for another fight.
I think Eubank is the one that's going to go for if he goes for a proper training camp, boxes a little bit behind his jab, I think he'll get the win. Maybe a stoppage late.
Sam Jones says that Chris Eubank Jr. is a stubborn fighter who will likely want a trilogy fight with Conor Benn. He believes that Chris Eubank Jr. will not accept the last result and will push for another chance to prove himself. However, Jones doubts the public will fully support a third fight. The commentary shows that while Chris Eubank Jr. is determined and wants the trilogy, not everyone sees it as a good idea. The fans may not be as excited as he hopes for another match.
Look, Eubank's stubborn, isn't he? He's probably going to look at that and think, I can't go out kind of like that, and he'll probably decide he wants a trilogy. But I personally I can't see the third one washing with the public. Do you know what I mean? I don't think the public like.
Dominic Ingle talks about Chris Eubank Jr. and explains that he may have thought he needed to win to even the score against Conor Benn. Ingle points out that Chris Eubank Jr. seemed to lack the fire in his belly during the fight and may have lost his motivation. Despite wanting a trilogy, Dominic Ingle highlights that Chris Eubank Jr. did not show the determination needed in the ring. The commentary emphasizes that while Chris Eubank Jr. may push for another fight, his performance suggests he needs to regain focus and passion.
Have a rematch, and Eubank's had to win. Maybe he's got into this fight. I think, well, if he beats me, it's 1-1, whatever. But he just didn't have that fire in his belly tonight. You know, maybe he's just lost the taste for it. But for me, you know, I don't come to many live events.
Carl Frosch talks about Chris Eubank Jr.'s way of handling interviews and fights. He explains that Chris Eubank Jr. takes his time to think things through, which can be a good approach. Frosch notes that Chris Eubank Jr. tries to be very clear and articulate, but sometimes over-explains his points. The commentary shows that Chris Eubank Jr. is intelligent and strategic both inside and outside the ring. Even though he wants a trilogy with Conor Benn, experts like Carl Frosch observe his careful approach and believe that Chris Eubank Jr is still focused and capable of planning his next moves effectively.
Something, you know what Chris is like, he takes his time, which isn't a bad thing. He tries to be articulate, and he sort of overspoke the point he was making for a change.
Eddie Oladipo raises concerns about Chris Eubank Jr asking for a trilogy fight with Conor Benn. He points out that age and weight differences make it a risky idea. Oladipo explains that Chris Eubank Jr should be careful about making middleweight again, while Conor Benn should return to welterweight. He mentions other big fights available for Conor Benn against fighters like Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, and Lewis Crocker. The commentary highlights that even though Chris Eubank Jr wants another fight, experts are worried about the physical challenges. Fans are reminded that strategy and safety are as important as desire for a trilogy.
But I hope it doesn't happen just because of the age and the weight difference as well. The idea of asking Chris to try and make middleweight again is crazy. And for Conor Benn, he needs to go back down to 147. I don't know if he can make welterweight, but that's where he should go because there are so many big fights against a few loudmouth Americans, Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney. There's a guy in Ireland called Lewis Crocker who's got a
Dave Allen gives a strong analysis of Chris Eubank Jr and Conor Benn. He praises Conor Benn for winning the last fight, but says Chris Eubank Jr looked faded and worn out. Allen explains that Conor Benn is not yet an A-level champion, but has beaten a tired opponent. He doubts that Conor Benn would be able to defeat Chris Eubank Jr if he was in his prime. The commentary emphasizes that Chris Eubank Jr still has the talent and power to compete, but fans must consider his current form before thinking about another trilogy with Conor Benn.
I can't take anything away from it. He lost to a faded Eubank, and then he just beat a shot to bits one. That don't make that. He's not 147. He's not 147 champion elect on the back of that.
No, can he win a world title at 147 now though?
Maybe, but the champions aren't. They're not A-level champions. They're like the B-level champions. Barrios, Crocker, they're very good fighters, but they're not great fighters. But I'm still not sure he'll beat him. I don't think Conor Benn's a fantastic boxer. Nigel Benn, 1990, Nigel Benn would have flattened Chris Eubank Jr. in one round tonight.
Eddie Hearn praises Conor Benn for a smart and powerful performance against Chris Eubank Jr. He explains that Conor Benn won almost every round and nearly ended the fight quickly. Hearn emphasizes that it was a different kind of fight compared to their first match and that Conor Benn boxed intelligently without letting emotions take over. He notes that Conor Benn worked the body effectively and achieved a massive win as a welterweight moving up to middleweight. The commentary shows that while Chris Eubank Jr. wants a trilogy, Conor Benn proved his skill and strength, making the next fight a big challenge.
Schooling, really. Won every round, dropped it. 10 more seconds, the fight's over. Different kind of fight, obviously, to the first fight, but needed to be. Needed to box smart and not use his emotions in there. I thought he boxed really well, busted him up to the body, and yeah, massive win for a welterweight to come up to middleweight and avenge that defeat and finally get a victory for the Benn family in the 4th episode.
Dominic Ingle shares his disappointment about Chris Eubank Jr.'s performance against Conor Benn. He explains that the fight did not meet expectations and describes it as very poor until the last round. Ingle acknowledges that Conor Benn got the win and deserved it. He points out that Chris Eubank Jr. did not show up properly in the ring. His legs were not active, and he seemed old and tired. The commentary highlights that while Chris Eubank Jr. may be motivated for a trilogy, his performance raises doubts and fans should consider whether he can compete at the same level again.
Definitely, for me, the fight didn't live up to the expectations. I'm extremely underwhelmed how they've pulled that off. Very, very, very poor fight. Disappointing. It came alive in the last round. That's it. The last round it happened, and Conor Benn got the win. Rightly so. But Eubanks tonight didn't turn up. Old overnight. His legs weren't in it.
Johnny Nelson explains that Chris Eubank Jr. may have overestimated himself by thinking he can replicate his first fight against Conor Benn. He highlights that anyone can reduce their weight, but it comes with huge risks in boxing. Nelson stresses that Chris Eubank Jr. depleted any advantage he had in the previous fight, and putting himself at a disadvantage is very dangerous in the ring. He points out that boxing is unforgiving and mistakes can be costly. The commentary shows that while Chris Eubank Jr. may want a trilogy, experts like Johnny Nelson believe he must carefully consider his strategy and physical limits before pursuing another fight.
I'm not sure what I can get away with from the last fight. For Chris, the pendulum is, he's rinsed himself down that much, he's thinking he can do it again. As I said, anybody can get down to the weight, it's what you can do with the weight. Boxing is the worst place to be if you aren't going to put yourself at a disadvantage, because it's the only place you can legally get killed. And so what Chris did was, Chris depleted any advantage he had.
Chris Eubank Jr. is clearly eager for a trilogy fight with Conor Benn after the first 2 matches, and his loss in the rematch has only motivated him more. Experts like Johnny Nelson, Dominic Ingle, and Adi Oladipo point out that there are serious challenges, including weight, age, and physical condition, that Chris Eubank Jr. must overcome to make another fight competitive. Conor Benn has proven his skill and intelligence in the ring, and any third fight will demand the best from both fighters. Fans are watching closely to see if Chris Eubank Jr. can regain his focus, prepare a strong training camp, and execute a smart strategy to make a trilogy realistic. This fight could be a test of determination, heart, and skill for both men. Are you backing Chris Eubank Jr. for the trilogy, or do you think Conor Benn will maintain his advantage? Drop your thoughts below and join the conversation.